another mini workshop in the Blissful Broker series. I could not be more proud of you for showing up for yourself and laying the foundation by building these executive skills. Now they will go so far in serving you for the rest of your life and career, and they are absolutely a worthwhile investment of your time and energy. Today, we're talking about accountability. This is a big one, especially in real estate. It's talked about so much. And it's tied to so many other topics and emotions, guilt, shame, ambition, success. It's a lot. And in particular today, we're talking about accountability with a coach or partner, which is a little bit different from our self-discipline workshop, which is another in the series I highly recommend you check out. But creating accountability with a coach or a partner is a well-tested strategy, and for a lot of people swear that this is the ultimate strategy for them in sticking to their goals. However, I always think that it's important that we have a little moment to talk about and notate like codependency. Codependency is not something that we really want to be setting ourselves up for as we scale a business, because it can create all kinds of issues later on the bigger we get, for sure. Discipline is something that we need to be cultivating within ourselves. That said, establishing accountability partners is also a handy way, I guess you could say, or symbiotic way of staying in touch with members of your community, or of different communities. So you might have different accountability partners for all kinds of different things, and that becomes an easy way for you to be in touch with a few different people on a daily or weekly basis. And as people in real estate, our sphere is always kind of top of mind, right? So I think you get where I'm going here. But also, so many of us in this industry are spending a lot of money, sometimes money we don't have, for basically glorified accountability partners in a coach. And it's not that I'm judging that, I'm just saying that if we're going to do that, we definitely want to make sure we're getting as much for our money as possible, right? So that's what we're working on today, and I'm really glad that you decided to show up for yourself today. As always, I'm Sarah Layton. I'm a real estate content marketing strategist, brand designer, course developer, speaker, trainer, lunch and learn leader, you name it. I've been doing it for a decade. And before that, I actually worked various different jobs in real estate, including title. I worked for real estate attorneys. I worked for agents. I worked in property management. I've done it. So I know a few things about real estate, and that's sort of where the unapologetic voice that you hear on bestrealestatewriter.com comes from. One other little note that I'll make before we move on, I'm not here to talk about myself, is that I would love to invite you to check out whatever communities I have available and open at the moment. They change. Sometimes they are closed, other times they're open. But I'd love to have you go check out bestrealestatewriter.com/groups to see which communities are open. Hopefully Real Estate Rainmakers is open for you right now. That's so near and dear to my heart, and it is chock full of like the best marketing and branding goodies as you scale. But anywho, let's keep it moving here, because what we're actually here to talk about is accountability. And it's such an enormous topic, especially between brokers and agents, because everyone loves to pass the buck. on a variety of different topics, actually. And so I think this is just a lovely little opportunity you and I are carving out for ourselves to reflect openly and honestly about where and how we're showing up, and what we're looking for in terms of an accountability partner or a coach. And let's just dig into getting more and more realistic around goal setting, around achievement, and not just setting, but actually completing these goals so that we are building a positive feedback loop for ourselves, for our self esteem, for our hype swipe files filled with social proof and all those good things. So, why is this skill so important aside from what I've already mentioned? Well, accountability, it's going to keep you on track, obviously, right? And provide also some encouragement, which, if you are someone whose maybe love language is words of affirmation, then you, by the way, are the one that I built all of the beautiful affirmation cards for, my love. But you're definitely going to get something out of like that encouragement portion of having the accountability partner or coach, depending on whether you prefer tough love or someone that's just gentle and warm and fuzzy. That should probably go into your decision making around who you enlist for accountability. But the whole point is that it's going to help you stay committed to the goals that really are meaningful to you. So when others are aware of your goals, I'm sure you've experienced this already. You know that you're more likely to follow through because you want to avoid that pain of having to explain to them why you failed. Although I am always going to encourage you to embrace your failures and be more and more open, raw, honest, and vulnerable about the mistakes and the hiccups and the face plants in your business. And the more you can do that in your content, the faster you are going to scale an audience that absolutely trusts you, relates to you, feels like you get it, like you get them, and is going to be willing to buy on repeat from you. The reality is, as you can imagine, that most people are just not willing to do that. So they're still posting highlight reels and still trying to be perfect and performative, and that just alienates people. But if you can start getting raw and open and honest, or you at least want to try, I'll invite you to check out the link in your PDF here on the previous page for the Roses and Thorns Content Journal Challenge. It's going to invite you to reflect on your roses and thorns for the day. It's also got a planning system in there that is my planning system for daily self-management and accountability. So it highly recommend. But beyond that, it asks you to basically document your roses and your thorns as you're moving through your days and your weeks, and to extract meaningful takeaways. And ultimately, what is going to happen is you're going to see that the more that you create content around the failures, the more sales you're going to make. And then you're going to become addicted to sharing the raw stuff, the real and the vulnerable, without, like, I'm not talking about trauma dumping all over people or like airing all your dirty laundry. My gosh, no. It's not that at all. But so if you want to learn more, definitely check out that link for Roses and Thorns. There's a 7-day free trial where you can learn the whole system. And then if you do want more accountability for 21 days to like really install the habit, then it's super affordable to upgrade beyond that. Okay. So why might you be struggling with this? Well, maybe you have been putting off an accountability partner or a coach because you feel like it would actually, like, you would be a burden on them, which breaks my heart. You are never a burden. Okay. But maybe that's, like an insecurity or fear that you've had. And if so, welcome, friend. You are safe here. It's okay. You're not alone. Maybe you thought you were the only one that felt that way. It's actually pretty common. That's why it's made the first bullet point. Okay. So no shame in your game. But maybe, you also feel embarrassed when you don't meet expectations. Like I was just talking about that in terms of the motivation and the the pain of you want to avoid that pain of having to admit that to someone. So that's a big part of why people leverage accountability partners. You might also work better alone, or feel think that you work better alone, or feel like having that external pressure it creates too much anxiety for you. That's possible. And maybe you're someone that just in general feels like you forget to check in with an accountability partner, and then that creates a whole other level of the spinning out about guilt and shame and forgetfulness and all of the things. I will say, if that one is you, that you also I highly recommend you check out some of the other workshops, such as the ones on external motivators, but also really the automatic reminders one. I think you will get a lot of value out of that. And I want to see you succeed with the goals that are clearly meaningful to you, free from the guilt and the shame scripts that run in your head when things aren't going according to plan. Okay? So now let's dig into our activity for this particular workshop, which is for you to find your accountability system. I want you, as always, not to try to conform to something you're not, but to embrace who and what you are, and your strengths and your weaknesses, and what works best for you, not what works best for me. Although I do like to share those things just in case that, it might help you feel a little bit less alone in what you might be going through, in case something I share is relatable to you. But I know that my story is far from every story. So the first strategy, of course, accountability partners. Who would have guessed? So this could be a friend, it could be a colleague, maybe it's someone that you go to church with, or do a particular hobby with, or maybe it's a spouse or a relative. You can find accountability partners in all kinds of places. Another one would be public commitment. So this day and age, we see this as, posting on social media typically, and calling out what you're going to do. In particular, we see this a lot in groups like Facebook groups and things like that. And these accountability partners are actually a big part of the success of membership sites, like those that are successful membership communities. So many people, really beyond the curriculum, are looking for that curated community of other people that share the same kinds of values, and also get something out of that particular instructor and that instructor's style. So if you have been enjoying this series with myself, and would want to connect with other people that are in the same industry, or similar life path and career journey, and struggling with the same things, and also find me relatable, therefore they're probably somewhat similar to you, then that's why I wanted to invite you into those groups. Okay? And that's why you have that link. So of course, coaches or mentors are another source for developing your accountability system. And you can use all four of these, or two or three, build your own. Okay? That's really what this is about, is developing your own system based on what you like and what works for you and what doesn't. For me, self-tracking, which is the fourth, using journals, like the roses and thorns system, that has been my self-management system of not just planning, but of reflection and getting as much as I can out of everything that I'm already doing on a daily basis. That's been my go-to system the last few years, after testing I don't know how many, between 20, probably from 2018, 2019, I started playing with new systems. And then that, I would say, lasted through probably up until like 2023, I think, is when I started using Roses and Thorns. And I was just like, as I was developing and designing different planners and journals and stuff, like, I was trying all the things. But ultimately, like, when I realized the power of tracking what you're doing before planning, that goes so far into setting realistic deadlines, which is another one of these mini workshops I highly recommend you check out if you haven't taken that one yet. So yeah, tracking, I cannot say enough about it because it gives the data that we need, I think, in order to make realistic plans and realistic goals. So, and that can go a long way within your accountability system, right? Like, if you set an unrealistic goal with your accountability partner and it's not on your accountability partner necessarily to know the difference of like what is realistic for you or not, it's just a matter of like them showing up and encouraging you and being there for you to reflect with, like, as you hit those deadlines. But it's not their job to know whether or not the goal that you're setting with them is realistic, although they might start to figure that out if you keep setting the same like goals and not hitting them. And no shame, and like I laugh because these are things that I've done. So um so that said, having the documentation and stuff helps us to go into this relationship setting realistic goals so that we don't start to get embarrassed or feel shameful and then ditch the accountability partner or like have damage to that relationship or something else negative. There's a lot of different other ways that this could go, and let's just avoid all of that anxiety. Why don't we? And just try a tracker for once. And if you really do struggle with setting unrealistic deadlines, failing to meet the goals, and then spinning out in shame and guilt, like, seriously, I cannot overemphasize that you take the setting realistic deadlines workshop. All right, so gotta dig in now to our questions. So, who is it? Who's it going to be that's going to help you to stay accountable? And I also recommend that you, in addition to your accountability partners, that you do use tech or other systems like trackers, planners, different things like that to help you, because humans are humans and life's for them as well. So if something happens all of a sudden to your accountability partner and it's certainly like not their fault or within their control or whatever, you want to have backups so that the whole thing doesn't fall apart. Okay, we don't want to put all of our eggs in one basket. That is a big mistake that derails a lot of us. And then, how often are you going to check in with that accountability partner? Obviously, that's something you guys are going to be agreeing to. And what is it that you're going to discuss during these check-ins? What is it that you're going to be accountable for and how? So is that progress updates, the challenges that you faced? Roses and Thorns is great for that. And what about like maybe the adjustments that need to be made? So that's something that you guys can both like exchange back and forth. Unless it's a coach, probably. It's really just more of a one-way street. But yeah, so I want you to like get intentional with that. And then before you go any further into setting up that relationship and that system with your accountability partner, I want you to reflect on how accountability can feel like support rather than pressure. That's where this system usually breaks down, right? Is when the pressure becomes so much of a negative stressor that we just want to get rid of it. We're like, I don't need this on top of everything else I have going on. It's too much. I'm overwhelmed. And then the excuses start going, and we grab onto one or a few of them, deploy them, quit the thing, and then meanwhile the whole time, let's be honest, there's some kind of guilt and shame dialogue somewhere in the back of our brain about what this means about us and our self-worth and our commitment level and yada 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 yada. And so we're done with all that, right? And that's why we're taking a moment here with this reflection question about how accountability can feel like support rather than pressure. And if you need help, please let me know. You're not in this alone. This is super, super common. Drop a note in the comments. Hop into the community and let us know that you're dealing with this. You are not alone. And I want to see you to reframe and restructure your relationship with accountability to feel like support overall rather than pressure. So let's reverse that negative cycle, shall we? I'm so proud of you for showing up for yourself this way and continuing to build out your systems, your strategies, but ultimately these fundamental executive functioning skills on your road to becoming a more blissful broker. As always, I'm Sarah Layton, and I can't wait to see you in the next